Is this the most dangerous thing to do in combat sports, in fighting? And a lot of people don't even consider it. We all know the dangers of stepping into a cage, of stepping into the ring and fighting another trained opponent who's trying to kick you in the head, who's trying to throw hard hooks and right hands into your chin. We all know the dangers of when the first time you glove up and you start sparring. Sparring can be a dangerous place as well. Some of my worst injuries ever, in fact, two of my worst injuries ever, have been in sparring and not actually in the fights and the championship fights. Is it grappling? Well, grappling can be quite dangerous as well. We've seen some horrific injuries in competition and online. Throws gone wrong, submissions gone wrong. People don't realize the submission's on before they tap and something is snapped. But possibly one of the most dangerous things you can do in combat sports, something quite simple, something you might take for granted if you go in and you've got a good pad man, is holding pads. Holding pads can be one of the most dangerous things in combat sports for a few reasons. Now, obviously, if you're training a beginner, they're likely going to injure you more than someone who's really experienced, although it can happen both ways. So if you're holding pads and someone's inaccurate and someone's really tensing, they can do a few things. They can obviously miss the pads. This is a bit of a risk with hands. This is sometimes why I see people hold boxer-sized pads to try and save the risk of getting hit in the face. But then what this is going to do is it's going to give your training partner some terrible technique. They're not going to develop good technique with this, and you're going to start stressing out your shoulders. You're putting a long lever here, and it's going to knacker your shoulders. Holding kicks can be one of the most dangerous things you can do in pad work. I have on multiple occasions, and it means I'm very careful now who I decide to hold pads for. On multiple occasions, held for a body kick, it's flew up over the pad, and it's hit me in the head. This has happened a couple of times. Now I just decide, okay, if they can't show their balance with shadow boxing, bag work, and then work on paddles where I can hold them away from my face and there's not that big impact. If they can't show their balance and control on these, why would I risk my career as a fighter to hold for round kicks? Very dangerous. The bare shin when it's thrown with full power, super dangerous, especially when you're ready to pad it for a body kick and it can come up and hit the head. This is really, really dangerous. There's times when I'm holding pads for someone. Now, if I'm holding a body kick and they jump off the floor when they do it, despite not being experienced, or they actually, worse, I'm holding the pads here and they grab the pads and push the pad into the kick, I've just decided at that moment, I'm not holding another kick for you with Thai pads. I might hold a massive whack-off shield, one of them big kind of Kyokushin shields, and really step into you so you don't have the range to put my brain health at risk, because there's only so much of that left. It's very dangerous holding pads. And as well as the short-term risk of someone jarring your elbow out, fucking rotating your shoulder, kicking you in the face, missing the pad and punching you in the face, as well as that risk, there's a kind of long-term risk off of all the impact. Now, there are ways you can protect yourself against these long-term wear and tear injuries. You know, one of the best ways, probably the best way to prevent overuse injuries, weirdly enough, it's resistance training. You don't want to stretch your arms out all the time. There's not a lot of good basis for that. But if you get reasonable, obviously don't think you're Jay Cutler immediately and do 40 sets and say, oh, the resistance training was supposed to prevent my injuries. No, if you want to prevent injuries, solid resistance training through a full range of motion is the best thing you can do. And this can help you brace and take the impact on the pads. Another thing is getting the impact timing right. So obviously when you punch and you hit the bag, you hit nice and solid, you brace, so you can be solid on impact and you're not going to flare your wrist or flare your elbows or hurt all of this. You're kind of doing the same on the pads. You can go at the same time, but this can be quite tricky. You're trying to time the millisecond they land with the millisecond that you're tensing. This is why you see a lot of Thai coaches and a lot of Muay Thai pad holders make all these bizarre, silly noises. It's not necessarily because it's just having a laugh and having a fun. But if I go, I'm only contracted for an appropriate amount, like a second at a time less. But if I go, I'm just spreading the amount of time that I'm contracted and ready to take that impact rather than trying to time it immediately. So is pad holding one of the most dangerous things, if not the most dangerous thing you can do in combat sports? Let me know in the comments. If you want to see more tips, see more training things, see more breakdowns. If there's any particular fighters you want me to break down, UFC 308 is just around the corner, so I'll get some breakdowns done of that. Subscribe, like, use code HARD10 at RevGear. Works in America too for a discount.